Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lamb. Today I'm here with Tate, part owner of Emerge Gym and part owner of Oviss Group. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Glad to be here.
I'm very appreciative of your time right now. I feel like
No worries at all.
we've just clicked.
Yeah, we have. We have. Yeah, I don't know. I remember you coming into the gym and you've always got a smile on your face and very infectious. And I know Jazz and a lot of the other people love you there. So, yeah, it's been good. It's been good to have you there.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And for those listening, be sure to check out Emerge Gym. One of the best gyms in Melbourne, far out, if not the best, I was just saying. And
Thank you.
I can't wait to unpack the story about Emerge and I guess just the success that it's had over the past how long have you guys been open?
Yeah, so what is it? It's July now. So we opened in April. So yeah, what's that? That's about 15 months.
15 months.
Yeah. Yep.
Insane
Yeah,
gym.
It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, I love it so much. Now, for the listeners as well, it's obviously part owner of Emerge and Oviss. Can you talk to us a bit about that and I guess what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah. So Oviss is a construction development company. So a couple of years ago, I got my builder's license, residential and commercial. We develop small scale luxury properties. I do that with my business partner, and then Emerge. We've just sort of found our feet, I guess. Like I said before, 15 months in business. We've got a really, really strong foundation, strong branding. I think everyone understands who we are and why we exist. Which I think is probably one of the most important things to start with. So now we've got a really good platform where we want to start offering a few extra services and stuff like that. We're nearing the last release and the last cap of the gym as well, which then also brings the complexity of how we keep giving impact once we have that capped. But that's something that we're working on too.
Definitely,
So,
it's a business model that I'd love to dive into a bit later in the episode, but I want you to tell me as well a bit about yourself. Like, were you always this entrepreneur when you grew up? Like, you're running two businesses.
Yeah, I don't think.
I
don't think so. I think it's a weird one. I think that I learned a lot about work ethic through my father, through my mum as well. But my father particularly, he just worked at Kenworth Trucks on a production line. But he would never take a sick day. So I learned a lot of, I guess, discipline and work ethic through that. And I think that I wanted to work, like I always wanted to work. So like when I was 14, I got a job at a garden supply company, moving around wheelbarrows and stuff like that. And then as soon as I was 14 and 9 months, I got a legitimate job at Hungry Jack's. And that was, honestly, that's probably one of the best jobs I ever had. Like, the people there and I was there for years too. Yeah. I was there, I think I was until I was about 18 or 19. So that was good. But I always wanted to work. I always connected that to a good work ethic. I connected that to I don't know, a good life. Do you know what I mean? Like being on time, putting in the work, all that kind of stuff, and then the good things will come from that. But I think so a bit about that. Like I got an electrical apprenticeship. I did that for 4 years. I became an A-grade electrician. Working construction sites all over Victoria. And then I got a job in the mines. So I went over to the mines for 2.5 years. And that was on Barrow Island at a gas plant. And I think that was probably the point where I kind of realized that working hard is not going to get me the life that I want exactly. So, and I think I had to do a bit more of working smart. So I was trading a lot of my time for money. And if you look at the most successful people, they figure out how to scale their abilities so they don't take as much time, so they have more time to do other things. And I think that was probably a realization then, because I went from working at Hungry Jack's, I think it was like $6.43 an hour or something like that.
Wow.
And then going to the mines where you're on quite a good wage, and kind of realizing that just because I got to that wage probably didn't really get me what I want. It didn't fulfill me as I thought it would have. So so that was probably the turning point where I kind of figured I needed to do something else. And then I went on a bit of a journey there, and as I said before, I got my builder's license, and me and my wife Tiff, we flipped a couple of houses and things like that. So I was working full time, and then I was kind of trying to get that developing stuff off the ground. And then not too long after COVID was kind of finishing up, Tiff and I had just sold one of the houses that we flipped, so we had a little bit of extra money there, and my business partner Jules calls me up and says, "I reckon it's time," and he would always call me up and say stupid stuff like that. So I didn't exactly know what he meant, but he's like, "I think it's time we open a gym," and it was kind of just I don't know, it's just the right timing. Like we just had got some money together, and it was kind of just sitting there, and it's something that Jules and I had talked about for 10 years or something.
Jeez.
Yeah.
A lot to unpack there.
Yeah,
Spilled out your whole life.
Sorry about that.
No, don't be. I guess that's my job as a host to unpack a bit of that, and it sounds like it's been a whirlwind of just different pathways.
I think it's definitely not a conventional pathway. It's not like I just went to uni, did this. So like I said, I was an electrician, and then I actually took a sidestep and got into project management and construction management, got a builder's license, all these kind of things. It's just not a conventional pathway.
So what was your schooling pathway like? How did that trajectory work? And I can hear how influential and I guess inspiring your parents both were in instilling values of hard work and I guess resilience as well. And motivating you to want to get out into the workforce and use your labour in productive ways. What were they all like in the whole picture of schooling?
Yeah, so schooling for me, I had a lot of friends who left school at like 16. So I wanted to leave early, and mum being my mum said, well, you can't leave unless you get a job. And me being probably a 16-year-old lazy kind of kid, I never really actually did it. So, but I was very interested in basketball at the time. So that was a huge part of my life when I was a teenager, and into my 20s, early 20s. And there was an opportunity to go to Box Hill Senior on the basketball program there. So that's a senior school, so it's 10, 11, 12. So I enrolled there, and that's probably what kept me in school, to be honest, because it was free dress. You call the teachers by their first name. If you don't rock up, like, no one calls you. Like, so it's kind of all on you, which for me personally was probably better, a little bit better. I wasn't a conventional learner, and that probably kept me in there. But in terms of my parents, I think that mum probably just wanted me to have a steady job. I think that's what it was, because I do remember talking to her about like becoming a PT or something like that, because I was always interested in that. And one of the things she said to me is like, during an economic downturn, these sort of things, those are the sort of things that go quickly and stuff like that. And I think that because I probably wasn't very academic, the trade route looked good. So I think they weren't really they didn't really pressure me either way, but they wanted me to be doing something. So Definitely. It wasn't like I could just leave school, but it wasn't like I could just leave school and do nothing. So,
I think parents always have that best interest at heart for their kids, whether that's like to the detriment of the kid or the benefit of the kid as well. It's like you want that stability and that security. Right. So love that for you. And you talked to us a bit about like how you weren't necessarily the most academically tuned individual or a conventional learner. Yeah. Although we don't know what a conventional learner is these days, to be honest. Yeah. Can you describe yourself as a kid? Like, what were the sort of behaviours that we're demonstrating?
I just think, I guess I had to be interested. That was the thing. And I think that if I couldn't see how this was going to help me in the future, I was just completely disinterested. So it's a weird one, because for years I thought I probably couldn't learn things. And then as soon as I wanted to do something, I was able to do it. So I just think that maybe the schooling was not quite set up in a way that was good for me. And so then I guess that kind of then you have doubts. It's like, oh, could I even go to uni? Could I even do these kind of things? And I think, does that answer the question?
No, definitely. I actually really love that point, because I think, like, upon reflection, I'm 3 years out of high school. It feels like a lifetime ago, but you reflect back and you look, you've got your prerequisite English, your prerequisite maths, and then you've got your pick of the pot of, your elective subjects that are really fun. But even then, it's like a very fine-tuned selection.
That's right,
So you hear people do, I don't know, your humanities subject, or you go down the PE route or health route or science route as well. And I think as a kid, or I didn't experience this personally, but I reflect back, and some of the kids that didn't necessarily have an interest in those subjects,
that's right,
they've gone off and done like amazing things.
It's funny you say that. I've got a friend of mine, Simon Sango. He's a bricklayer, and he said to me the other day, he's like, oh, I've got learning difficulties, and he's my age. And I said, well, who told you that? Like, when did they tell you that? And he's like, well, like in school, like I couldn't learn anything. I was like, yeah, but he's like built this successful business. It's like, how'd you learn how to do all that? like exactly. You don't have learning difficulties. Like, you just didn't learn the way I'm trying to teach you. And I think it is dangerous, because then you these kids get put into like a pigeonhole of like, oh, this is I can't learn this.
Definitely.
This is not for me.
And you ostracize a really big group of kids who don't necessarily relate to such a specific one size fits all system.
That's right.
And narrative as well, because
absolutely.
You have to do these subjects to succeed and go to uni and those sorts of things. But what's stopping some of these non-conventional learners from getting to uni is the fact that these subjects don't apply.
That's right. It's an interesting subject, because I'm a fan of school. I think it's great, but there's definitely flaws within it. Like, I don't think it should be scrapped or anything like that, but there should be opportunities to learn other ways. And there are through, you can do like your pre-apprenticeship in year 10, like things like this. But I think that, there's probably a little bit of work to do around it, especially with the world changing in terms of, like, it used to be you could go to uni, get your degree, go and work in a company for 40 years, retire, whatever. Like, the world's not really set up like that anymore. So I think that the education probably needs to change with it.
Definitely. And I guess the age-old question is like, how and
that's
what
right.
sort of practices can you put in to navigate a cohort of kids who are all the same age but don't demonstrate the exact same habits, but yet you're putting them in this system that pushes them in that exact same habit.
It's very difficult. It's probably not something that I'm qualified to answer.
100%.
But it's a good discussion to be had, I think.
Yeah, I love it. I guess during school and those sorts of things, like, would you have been told that you struggled learning? And
I think so. See, this is the weird thing as well, because when I went to Box Hill Senior, we had a GPA, so you had to have a grade point average of 4.2, and my marks prior to going there were terrible. so it's like they dangle the carrot. It's like, you can't play basketball unless you do the work. So then it was like, and I think that's always been it for me. If I can see a point in it, and I think that's probably, my parents didn't have degrees. They didn't have, so it wasn't really a big thing in my family. So I probably didn't see the value in it, and therefore I just didn't put the work in, sort of thing. So, and then as soon as that GPA was going to stop me playing basketball, I was like, all right, well, I've just got to do just enough and that's exactly what my mum said. I think I got 40. Was it 32 or 42 on my interscore? Like, it's terrible, but it was like just enough to just pass.
That's all you need sometimes. And I do want to talk about passions, but before we get into that, I think the way you speak about how your parents didn't necessarily have the degree, it's interesting, this quote of like being a product of your own environment. I think the people that you surround yourself and grow up with, you start to adopt those habits. And it's I did a podcast with someone before, and they said, the top 5 people that you surround yourself with, you're going to embody the habits and the excellence that they demonstrate or potentially don't demonstrate. So it's very interesting, that point. But Talk to us about your passion. So basketball seems like it was a huge
Basketball was
part.
huge. Yeah, basketball was huge for me. And it probably kept me out of a bit of trouble growing up as well. But yeah, it was a massive part of my life for a long time. But it did get to a point where I didn't enjoy it anymore. So I got to about 21. We won the youth league, like played for Ringwood Hawks. We won the youth league state championship, and that for me was just like, that's good. It's time for me to go, sort of thing.
That was your future point, I guess.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you like when you're playing at that level, like you've got 3 trainings, games, like there's a lot of load. So as soon as I finished, I had all this time, and that's probably when I would always get into the gym in the off season and things like that. But that's probably where that started. I was like, well, what else can I do for 7-8 hours a week? So that's probably where the gym came into it.
Definitely. So you've you've put basketball aside and found gym. Were there any other passions that you were sort of pursuing?
Well, I was massive on career. Like the career was a huge thing. So, and I don't really know if I was passionate about the work I was doing, but I seemed to be passionate about a career and trying to build a life, and be able to support, my future wife and children and all that kind of stuff. So I think that was an overlying, overlying, if that's a thing, passion. So I was passionate about work, but I wasn't passionate about the work I was doing. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it's like that.
And that was
working to live or living to work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that was probably like I love socializing. I love friends. I've done a lot of traveling. Been fortunate enough to do a lot of traveling as well. They're huge parts of my life, and they still are now. So they're probably the biggest ones for me. Yeah.
And what sort of, I guess, natural talents or skills would you say you had growing up? Like, you talk about socializing. Like, were you always a connector in your groups?
Yeah,
social situations.
It's a weird question. Not a weird question, but it's like I don't know how to answer that. So what would you say? So
I guess like, did you have any?
Did I have?
Yeah, natural skills.
Well, I think. I do think that I was always a hard worker. I think that was probably something that was big. And yeah, I think that I never really struggled to meet people or socialize with people and stuff like that. So, I think there are probably a couple of the things that potentially my family instilled in me from a young age. It's a weird one because I was kind of, I like to draw and do a lot of creative stuff and stuff like that, but that's kind of just disappeared. So I don't know what's happened to that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And at the start of the podcast, you did mention how you started to realize that, I guess, the hard work that you put in should probably be flipped over to working smarter.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a bit about that?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily flip, but there has to be a balance. So like my dad, for example, super hard worker, he would get I think it was a $300 voucher at the end of the year if he didn't take a sick day. So there was 3 kids, me and my 2 sisters, so that would get split up. That's our Christmas present. And that's like the story I grew up on. So it was like hard work. But the thing is, like, my dad was putting his health before all this kind of stuff to obtain this stuff. So I think that there was a realization that, like, you can work as hard as you want, but if you're not working smart as well, there's plenty of people out there who are working their asses off, who are not living the life they want to live, and they're not getting that reward. They're doing 80-hour weeks, and they're not able to see their family and all this kind of stuff. So I think it was more of a realization of, like, if I could be smarter about it and work hard, then the good things will come.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's going to be my clip. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, no, because it lights me up when you talk about things like that, because I guess going back to the schooling conversation, you're not taught these sorts of things.
Yeah.
You're not taught how to upscale or, just scale these certain projects that you're doing so that you don't have to invest so much time into it. It's like, no, well, you're going to go work your 9 to 5, potentially 9 to 9, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
Recover on a Saturday and get ready for Monday on a Sunday.
Yeah, that's the thing. And like look, if if people enjoy that, and that, then I've got no problems with that. But the reality was, I couldn't see, I didn't think the trade-off was worth it for what I was getting. And I think probably a big turning point was also that I'd set financial goals for myself. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, and like as I said before, I wanted to make sure I could support the lifestyle I wanted in the future and my family and all that kind of stuff. And I bought an apartment off the plan when I was 23. I'd saved up $100 a week for like 5 years. Bought this super cheap apartment, and then I went to the mines, and I was on good money then. And I'd bought another house, and I wanted to have these two properties before I was 25. And I hit the goal, and I went back to my room, which is this. It's like no bigger than this room here. And I put my bag down after a day of work, and I was like I've been working towards this goal for like 6 years now, and I was like, this is just not it. Like something's wrong. Like there's something missing. Like this isn't really how it's supposed to feel. Like, or how I thought it was supposed to feel. So, and part of that was that I was alone, isolated on an island, working 80 hours a week, 26 days in a row, and then 9 days back home. I was doing that for like 2.5 years. So, part of that was, I think it was so lucky that I went there, and I did earn good money. I did hit those goals early, because then I realized I'm probably putting too much emphasis into this career thing. I'm probably not actually being smart about it. So.
Talk to us about this missing piece. It's something that I'm experiencing right now, where, stuck in this uni degree of 3 years, in and out sort of thing. Don't really know what I want to do, hence the podcast and interviewing people like yourself. There's always this one thing that's missing, which is felt across people my age, people coming out of high school. What were the ways that you... How were the way? Oh my god! How did you navigate yourself out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm getting a cramp there.
No, it's all
good question, because that moment, like in the bedroom by myself in the mines, kind of, it made me probably realize that there was something I hadn't been focusing on. So I was happy with where my career was financially. Once I'd got my first paycheck in the mines, it was the first time I'd be like, I can just think about something else now. Like I don't have to, I had this hanging over my head about money all the time, and it was kind of like, so on paper, everything should be good. Do you know what I mean? But there was this missing piece, and I read a book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and that was like a game changer for me at the time, because of what I was sort of going through. And it's about a big shot litigator who has a heart attack, goes to the Himalayas and meets some monks and stuff. It's a great book. And that kind of then, I kind of realised there was some mental stuff going on that I probably needed to deal with. And I read a few more books, listened to podcasts. I went on a meditation retreat, all this kind of stuff, and just trying to figure something out. And there was a few things that I probably dealt with there that were good, but then I think more to your question, like the missing piece or whatever it is, I think that once I'd gone through that, I had a real clear idea of what I wanted my life to look like. And I think that is what you need to have. So if you have a clear idea of what you want your life to look like in 10 years' time, you can use that as a filter to what you're doing now. So there's times in your life where you've just got to eat shit, unfortunately, right? So, sorry to swear, but that's just the reality, right? But the danger is, do I just need to eat shit right now? I'm actually doing the wrong thing. And I don't think you can figure that out unless you can answer like where you want to be in 10 years' time or 5 years' time or whatever. And if you can't if 10 years is too much for you, go 5 years, go a year, whatever you can do. But if you said to me, I want to be a doctor, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to be married, all this kind of stuff. It's sort of like, what makes you want to be a doctor? Like, do you understand like being a doctor? Like, think about what a doctor does every day. Like, think about what they do every day. So, they might be telling someone, they've got cancer, they might be, but then the other thing is like they're helping people every day. So do the negatives of this job outweigh the positives, or do the positives outweigh the negatives? So if you can get a clear picture of what you want your life to look like day to day in the future, then you can use that. So if you're saying to me, like, I'm struggling with uni, like, I don't know, do you know where you want to be in 5 years' time? Because if I say I want to be, I want to own my own electrical company in 5 years' time. I want to. I'll talk about that because it's probably something I'm more familiar with rather than university. But yeah, if you say to me, I want to own my electrical company in 5 years' time, and right now you're a third-year apprentice, and you're like coming to me going, like, I'm so sick of this. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. It's like, well, you told me that you want to own your own company doing this work in 5 years' time. So unfortunately, you have to just eat shit for the next 2 years and get it done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But whereas if you were doing a uni degree and you say, well, I want to be, I don't know, like a travel blogger in 5 years' time, it's like, well, this is not conducive. So then you can figure out where those missing pieces are. And I think that's a massive part of it is having a vision of having a why and where you want to track, because then you can figure out day to day if you are just wasting your time or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I love it. It's like the simplified version of it. It's literally like, just picture, what do you want?
Yeah, what do you want? Whether
it's 5-10 years or another one was really good. There's this deathbed visualization where, you know, on your deathbed, what do you want? Life? Like you're literally dying. Or you're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to be fulfilled doing your 9 to 5? Whether that's something that you do want to do.
Yeah.
Or was there something further or deeper that you wanted to explore?
Yeah. But I also think it's like, if someone, like, they say they want to be a surgeon, it's like, it's easy to get, or they want to be a police officer or a fireman. Or it's easy to get, I think, romantic about that and be like, oh, that'd be cool, like, because of the title and things like that. But the reality is, you got to think about what those professions are doing every day, and then if that's not something you want to be doing every day, then you need to kind of pivot to some degree. And there's plenty of things that I've done. Like, I did a lot of night school when I was doing my apprenticeship to get an extra fibre ticket, which, like, I never used. Like, there's all these sort of things that I've done, but I think that you don't want to stand still. You always want to be upskilling, and you're going to get it wrong sometimes, but you've got to be able to pivot and then move towards whatever that bigger picture thing is.
Definitely. There's this form that I send to my guests all the time, about like how we want to structure the conversation, and something that you wrote really resonates with this whole conversation, I think, about like using your passions or finding your passions and those sorts of things. And it's the passion filter.
Yep.
I'll name it that, I guess.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a bit about that concept?
Yeah, so it's sort of, there's a bit of crossover there, I guess, to what we were just talking about then. But yeah, it is exactly that. So it's figuring out what you love to do, and then hopefully you can then figure out how you can not even make money, just how you can be happy doing that. Do you know what I mean? So, and then picture that in 5 years' time, and then you can use that as a filter. So if you are not passionate about your uni degree, right, but it's linked to a passion that you have it's a stepping stone that's going to get you there, it's like, well, you've just got to tough it out. But whereas, like, if you have your uni degree that you're not passionate about, and then you can't actually see where the next step is, then it's going to be very difficult. Then it's like, am I doing the right thing here? And I think that finding your passion is something that people try their whole lives to do, you know, and still don't do it. So I think that one thing that I did was I just found I did a lot of stuff, did a lot of things. I did hard rubbish removal, concrete as labourer, like all these jobs. And I think the more things that you find out you don't want and don't like, the closer you'll become. So you're not trying to like just nail your passion the first job that you pick. You're still using all these things. You're collecting the data to make sure that you're still at least trending in the right direction. And then, yeah, always constantly using that as a filter. So the electrical company example again. It's like, should you do a leadership course, or should you do a business course? Well, you probably should do a business course. Do you know what I mean? So it's like constantly using this as a filter.
So I guess the next question that I want to ask is, are you a believer that you can monetize your passions?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I think that, I think so. Yeah. I would say I am. Yeah. I think that there's there's a lot of people who have done a lot of you have to be able to innovate. Like if you have a passion that is not necessarily connected to money, you have to be able to innovate. Like I know that there's a guy in the news recently who's been copping a lot of flack, the Adrian Portali, LMCT Plus owner. I don't know if you know about him, but he said the same thing. Like he was trying to do all this kind of stuff, and he was always really passionate about cars. And he was trying to figure out like, how do I make money from this? And he started a raffle. So now he has all these subscribers who pay membership fees, and he raffles off all these like supercars and stuff like that all the time. And now he does houses and all this kind of stuff. He's an interesting guy. He's very polarizing, but we can have a look at him. But like, see, he's looking at cars, and he's like, I'm passionate about cars. How do I monetize that? And he's come up with like a subscription model where he gets paid and raffles cars off. So it's like thinking about outside the box about what your passion is. So like, you know, I'm passionate about gym, health and fitness. I've opened a gym. However, like we do have a lot of different, we've got a cap membership base, and we can talk about that kind of stuff later.
Well,
but
that was literally my next
kinda
topic,
yeah.
but yeah, it's so interesting that point of innovating, and it's always like struck out to me, like how can you find little ways to make a little bit of money while doing something that you love. And some people, I guess, there's the argument or the trade-off of like you face burnout because you start to lose passion for your passion. Have you found that at all?
I think so. I think I'm going to sound repetitive here, but I think that's where that filter comes in, right? So if I'm burning out, and like I've, as you know, I've just had a little daughter Scarlett, and like prior to her arrival, I would probably just work like 9, 10, maybe 11 days in a row, and then I'd just take a day. I'd take half a day, and then I'd just kind of keep going. I was kind of getting burned out, but then because I knew where I was tracking, I had passion for that. So I'm passionate about the gym, right? I'm passionate about business, especially. But I'm also super passionate about the life that I want to have in 10 years' time, and the opportunities that I want to have for my wife and for my family and all these kind of things. So I think that's even overriding all those sort of things. So when I am burning out, I'm kind of like, well, this is all worth it. Do you know what I mean? And if you can't, that's where that filter comes in. If you can't link what you're doing to have worth to the bigger picture, that's when there's a disconnect, and that's when you will burn out and be like, why am I doing this? Like, so yeah, if you have a better idea on what your why is and why you're doing it all, those are the times, like the bad days and when things are not going as planned and all this kind of stuff, like, you know, it's worth it. Yeah.
I love it. Love that so much. Let's hop onto Emerge.
Yep.
It's how we met, and it's a very, very niche gym business model that you don't typically see. Can you talk to us a bit about it? Like, what is the business model? Yep.
So, I guess initially to talk about the business model, and like I said, it would sound repetitive, but we're massively about the why. Like we spent a lot of time, Jules and I and Jackson as well, spent a lot of time figuring out, you know, we want to open a gym, but why do we want to open a gym? And Simon Sinek writes a really, really good book, Start With Why, and he's got like a TED Talk that's had a heap of views, and he talks about businesses and how a lot of people know it's the why, the how, and the what, and a lot of people know what they do. So like, take a car factory or someone building cars, like a Toyota or something. Everyone knows what they do. They build cars, right? Not all of them know how they do it, because most of them would be salesmen and board members and things like this, but people probably know a little bit about how. So most companies kind of know how, but not everyone in the company knows how. I don't know why Toyota exists. Like I'm not sure what their why is and stuff like that, and how strong it is. But that's where we started. So like our why was basically to provide, like our why is to emerge as the best person, the best version of yourself. So whatever that looks like. So if you're trying to lose some weight, training for a marathon, bodybuilder, powerlifter, whatever it is, it's just the best version of whatever that is, right? And that's why the company exists. So we start with that. That's number one. And then we just happen to also be a gym, right? So the way that I'll use Tesla as an example. I think their why is to build a sustainable future. Now that's super interchangeable. Now they could just be building solar panels, right? Because it fits in with that, fits in with their why. So they build cars, but they actually do now. They're doing like solar panels with on roofs and stuff like that with that look like tiles and all this kind of stuff. So they're innovating in the space. Apple are huge on it. Their why is to challenge the status quo. So none of what their why is actually about what they're doing, if that makes sense. Do you want me to turn that? That's my phone. Can you hear that or not? Yeah. Oh. So none of their yeah, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So it's not actually about what they're doing. So the first thing is we want to help people be the best version of themselves. So how do we do that? We all like the gym, so that's how we're going to do it, right? So that's the start. That's how we formed, and then from there it's like, okay, now how are we actually going to provide a service that is better than what we're seeing in the market at the moment? And then how do we? Because the other danger is if you're just always telling people what your why is, but you're not showing it through action, you create mistrust with your potential clients and with the broader community. So it's like, oh, these guys are saying they care about everyone. They're saying like their why is to help us all emerge as the best version of ourselves. But how are you doing that? So that's the next thing. So it's like the how. So the how and how we create a trust is having the cap membership. It's like, all right, so we're going to cap our membership because we don't want the gym to be overcrowded. We want everyone that comes in here to have a good experience every single time they come in. And yeah, there will still be peak times and you might have to wait for something every now and then, but we want to limit that as much as possible. So the business model, you're starting to see we're trying to compete on value. So we're not trying to compete on price. So when we opened the doors, there was a gym, maybe 5 Ks away that were doing memberships for I think $12 a week or something like that. Or $9.99 it was for a week. And I could do the numbers on $9.99 for us, and we're going to need like 1,000 members to break even. Yeah. So it's like, and initially, but probably because of my relationship with money and probably not having much money growing up, it's like we want to make it as cheap as possible because we want to get people in here. But then what happens is you flood the gym, and then you also don't have any extra money to do fun things. So the other way that we show people who we are is we have little events every now and then. We bring a DJ in. We had a barber at the last event we had there. And that went off. That was one of Jules' ideas. That was really good. So the business model is really to compete on value. So that's number one. So this is what our why is. How do we show that, and how do we compete on value? So initially, obviously we're a bit more expensive than other gyms, but we like to think that we keep the gym cleaner, and it's going to be less crowded. So we're competing on value. And then second to that, we weren't super happy. Like, we're happy, but I'm probably like a hard person to please to some degree. So like everything's going really well, and I'm like, I just don't like we're having this impact and everyone's loving it here, but how do we get more? Like, how do we get more out of this? Because we're gonna cap the membership, so we've only got a certain amount of people. So I want to make sure all those people are getting as much as they can. And like a lot of people like yourself, they already know what they're doing. Like, you've got a coach or you're well-rounded, but there are Gen Pop people who don't know what they're doing. So that's where we brought in the coaching service as well. So we've got a coaching app. Jules runs all that. So you've got like weekly check-ins, nutrition, programming, all that kind of stuff. So then it's like now we're layering in more services that add more value to people. So it's not like, oh, we're just charging more. Like, we're actually making sure, can we provide this service, and is it valuable, and what is the value of that? So now all of a sudden we're getting a low amount of members who are getting better results, but they're paying a little bit more as well. And that's how the business model works. So we're constantly competing on value rather than competing on price.
I love that. And that forces the premium, I guess. Like it justifies it. And I guess if anyone's walked into Emerge, you can just feel it from the moment you walk in and just view like the equipment, just like the whole layout of the place, I guess justifies that premium.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's what you've built is amazing. It's fantastic. And I guess like it's a testament to your character and your hard work as well.
Well, it's not just me. Like it's definitely Jules and Jackson and Jazz and Drew and like everyone else. And the other thing is too, I think when we talk about creating culture, it's like I think people who are prepared to pay a little bit more understand what they're getting as well. So you're kind of getting people that are coming in like yourself. We got Chris Yip training there. Like we've got Jared Hall. We've got like all these people who are like almost at the top of the game. Like, so there's that as well. So it's like, it's attracting the people, which is kind of like, I don't even really have to do anything anymore for the culture. Do you know what I mean? Because the type of people who are coming through the doors are building that culture. So it's not even me anymore or Jules or Jackson or like, it's just everyone now. It's just a massive community. So it was kind of hard to get that off the ground and try to build that trust with people and try to really display who we are as a company. Now that people understand that, it's kind of like everyone there is just singing the same song. So
definitely, man.
Yeah.
How important have Jules and Jackson been in the whole process?
Oh, like super important. I guess Jules is like, he's the ideas guy. He's the crazy guy. He's the guy who comes up with all these. Like you see a lot of the content we put out, the videos, the funny ones, or like that's all Jules. Like that's not. I'm not good at any of that stuff. So shout out to Jules. And just having someone to back you up, and then Jackson as well. He's been there since day one. He's came on as a shareholder. And like he's been huge. Like there's so many people who really look up to him at the gym, especially a lot of the younger guys and all those. So it's been a brand of people. Like it's the people. It is the people. And you know Jasmine, she's been huge. Like Drew, she does a shift every weekend. She's great as well. Like we've just got people everywhere that are awesome. So 100%. And I think that is something that within a business has to filter down. Like you can't, like you have to, it's like an inward outward facing thing. So the way that I treat Jules, the way that Jules treats me, the way that we treat Jazz, Jackson, Drew, that needs to filter down to the members. So if we're treating Jazz like shit, then that filters down. So it's like it starts at the top and then it has to filter down. It has to inward outward facing. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. Product of your own environment. Hey?
Yeah, that's right.
If you have a shit workplace,
Absolutely.
if you feel like absolute shit. No, but I guess like in all honesty, like I walked in, I was like, oh fuck, $25 for a membership at Emerge. It's one of those decisions because I was weighing up a few of the powerlifting gyms in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, like 25, I guess you don't really see a gym membership that expensive, especially with your Dermits that are like $400 a year.
Yeah, that's right. Like,
They are always packed.
Yeah.
They're a big warehouse as well, but obviously location's very far.
Yeah.
I think from what you're speaking about in terms of layering the value, having great culture as well, the $25, I don't even think twice about paying You know, it's worth it. Yeah. And you can just see like how much work you're putting in behind the scenes to make sure that all memberships are optimized and like you're actually getting value for your money.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
because you can pay like a $10 app membership, which is what I was doing, and then just bludge it and be like, well, I'm not going to go. Like, what's stopping? It's like $10.
There is a psychology around that as well, which when people connect when they're paying more, they are more accountable. Like I had a friend of mine, I won't name him, but I would always give him stuff for free and stuff, and he jumped on with Jules and started, and he would just like wouldn't follow it and jumped on with Jules as soon as he's paying money. He's like, I'm sticking to this plan. So, like he lost 8 kilos in like 8 weeks after like not being able to lose weight for like 12 months. So, there's definitely a psychology around it there. I think the other thing that I want to see happen because we're limited, right? We're limited with how much impact we can have. I want to put some pressure on other gyms. Like, I want other people to go, hang on, like, maybe we should be doing a little bit more. Maybe we should be charging a little bit more. Maybe we should be trying to do a little bit more for our members. Maybe we should be having events. Maybe we should, because that for me is bigger, if that makes sense. So if we once we cap out, it's like we can't have any more. I hope other gyms take notice and they're like, we need to start competing on value as well. I'd love to see people copy our model. Like, I'd love to because that's what I want to see, because I don't want a bunch of gyms who don't give a shit about their members. Like, if we can put pressure on other gyms to do the same, then awesome.
And I think the whole, like, population benefits from it.
That's right.
You see so many gyms where half the time they're unstaffed. And then the other time you walk in and they're like on their phone or something, you know, like they just don't give you anything. Whereas you walk into Emerge and it's like, hey, how you going? Like, you have a good chat, or if you're like in and out, like that's fine. That they're respectful of your time as well. I love that. I love how you're like trying to set the standard for other gyms to look up as well.
I think a big part of that's my wife Tiff. She's super successful in her own right. She's done her masters in HR and used to be a general manager of HR, and she did a lot of the talent acquisition process. And when we hired Jazz and Drew, that was one of the questions on the thing, is like, what's a receptionist to a business? And they both nailed the question. It was like, we're the first point of contact. Like, we are, like, some people would see the receptionist role as like, oh, it's just a receptionist role. It's like, that's not it at all at Emerge. Like, you're the face of the business. Like, you're the first person someone sees. Like, and if you're rude, if you're not attentive, all this kind of stuff, like, that is now filtering down to the members. So it's a super important role. Like, it's massively important to have the right people who are front facing. Like, if you don't have that, you're in trouble straight away.
Definitely. Let's move on to, I want to talk about Tiff, actually, like, and the impact she's had on your life. Like, you've recently had a kid. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What has her impact been like?
Yeah, huge. Like, again, huge. I think so. I met Tiff when I was in the mines. So she was trawling the internet one night, added me on Facebook, and then it's pretty much like we got together, and I think that it just after I'd gone on this little journey of meditating and all this kind of stuff, and I think it was just the perfect timing as well. And I think she probably gave me a lot more direction. So I think I had the work ethic, kind of had the passion, but I kind of was bubbling along a little bit, I felt. And I think that once I met Tiff, I was like, bang, like, this is what I want. I've got someone to work for now, and like, this is the life that I want to have. So she's been massive in that regard, just aligning that. Huge support. And she's just doing, like, we've just recently had Scarlett, so she's doing really, really good at that as well. So she just continues to impress me.
Love that. I guess it leads us into a couple questions from the listeners as well. Ben asked, "Is being a dad easy?" So I feel like that lined up perfectly.
It's not easy. It's not easy. It's look, it's one of the best things you can do. Like, it's definitely opened up my world. I think that you have this kind of spectrum of emotion that you go through your entire life, and then when you have a kid, that spectrum is bigger, because things are, I don't know, it's really hard to describe. I think I've changed a little bit, but it's even like I said, when it was almost like when I met Tiff, like, there's more direction. It's like there's even more direction now with Scarlett, and it's definitely difficult. She's just started sleeping through 7 to 7, and that's a huge testament to Tiff, who's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. She's had her on a pretty hardcore routine and stuff like that. And you really just have to then figure out how you balance everything. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that probably I'm still trying to adjust to, and still trying to figure out what the optimal days and weeks and months sort of look like, because I used to work so much, and Tiff just wouldn't. She would get, this is the bigger picture sort of thing. So sometimes I would get up at 4 a.m, not get home till 8 p.m, and like I can't really do that anymore. So I think that's been an adjustment for me. But I also want to get home, so it's probably made me a little bit more efficient with my time, because if I wasn't getting stuff done, I'd be like, I'll just stay until I finish it, sort of thing. Whereas now it's sort of like I've got to get home, so things are a bit more efficient. But yeah, it's definitely difficult, but it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Yeah,
love it. There's some wisdom. Have a kid so you find more direction.
yeah. I think you need to. Yeah. You definitely need to have some other things in order as well first.
I love it. On to the next. Dan, or the Flexing Physio, asked, what was something that you found challenging opening, I guess, your business in the first 3 months?
In the first 3 months, was it? Yeah. I think it's just, you have the moments, and we touched on a little bit in the podcast, talking before. You have the moments where you're like, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this right? Like, and you're trying to like, but you're trying to put through the filter, and it's like, does this align? So there's a lot of like, does this align with our brand values? Does this align with our why? Like all that kind of stuff. So I think I found that very difficult to begin with, and I think also because it was the first time me working for myself on a regular basis, because I was working a lot when Tiff and I flipped a couple of houses. I was doing a lot of work after work, but I think just probably not really getting the time that it takes to pull something off. So you have an idea, and then you're like, we can pull this off in 2 weeks, and then it's like 2 months later and you're like, where are we at with this? Like, how's it going? So I think that was definitely difficult. I think that probably those couple of things, I think.
So would you say like being more realistic with sort of the things that you wanted to achieve?
Getting realistic with timelines, I think, was probably a difficult thing for me, because I want everything done yesterday. So it's like trying to manage my own expectations as well. That was probably it, I think.
Yeah. Dan also wanted to know what the 3 most important things are in your life.
Jeez.
Tough question, that one.
Well, Tiff and Scarlett would be a big one. And then I think, so are they two?
There's two, yeah. I don't know. I have to count it.
And I think just enjoying what I'm doing, because I think that's massively important. And that kind of then feeds into, Tiff and Scarlett and the businesses and stuff like that. So,
love it.
Yeah.
Jared Hall asked, what was one issue you didn't think that would arise when opening the gym?
I think that we had, like, because we talk about culture and we talk about getting the right people in and stuff like that, and that includes members. And there's been some hard conversations to have with people, because they're not and this is members I'm talking about, that we've had to ask to leave, because they're just not fitting in the culture, and we're getting complaints and stuff like that. So it's probably naively something that I didn't think about. I didn't think would be an issue, but I will also fiercely protect our culture. So if there's people who are intimidating people who are causing issues and stuff like that, they'll be asked to leave. So, and we sit here and be all rosy about culture and stuff like that, but that is the reality, is that you have to kick people out to have the culture that we have, because you get one bag egg and it just feeds. So I think that's probably something I underestimated.
100%. I guess because there's no screening phase as well.
That's
you can't
right,
control who's like going to sign up for a membership.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah.
I love that. And then Jared also asked, what's one thing that you thought that wouldn't be an issue, but... Oh, no, sorry. Wait, let me repeat that. What's one thing you thought would be an issue when you opened that hasn't happened yet?
I think getting it off the ground, like that was probably like always in the back of my mind. It's like you're signing this lease for 5 years for a lot of money, like per year, and you kind of just like, there is this thing. It's like, are we going to be able to pay the bills, sort of thing, and we have been able to. So it's kind of like probably one of the things. It's probably all I can think of, really. Yeah,
love it. Jules asks, are you upset that your gym partner continues to get one more rep than him?
So Jules and I have been training together in the mornings.
I've seen that
recently. And obviously he's getting funny in there. But Jules has always been stronger than me. So
it's a big unit, Jules.
He's a big unit. He's competed a couple times, 3 times I think as well, and I think that he's planning a comeback. So we'll see how that goes.
It's exciting.
So, yeah.
Paulie asks predictions for Izzy versus Drickus.
I'd have to go Israel Adesanya. That's a UFC question.
Yeah, awesome. Jules asks, why is it so important for him? Oh, sorry. Jules asks, why is it so important for you to wake up and set the standard each day?
We joke around. That's
Is that an inside joke?
Yeah, it's an inside joke. No, we don't set the standard. We just do the best we can.
Yeah.
That's.
Before we end, I'd like to ask, is there anything that you'd like to leave on, or?
No, I don't think so. I think I thank you for being generous with your time as well, and having me on. I think, I like people who are having a go. Do you know what I mean? So I think that, when we talked, you said you started this podcast when you were like 16. I love that. So I'm just happy to be a part of it. Like, good on you. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Where can people find you as well?
So my Instagram handle's just Cal_Tate, emerge.gym, and then Oviss Group.
Yep. Love it so much. Be sure to follow at Life with Lamb podcast, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thanks, mate.